Many great footballers have gone through terribly difficult periods in their careers, but eventually overcame the hardships and reached their full potential. Luka Modric's first season at Real Madrid, for example, was disastrous. Samuel Eto'o's, on the other hand, was labelled a failure at Los Blancos, but he went on to win the Champions League with Barcelona. Yes, there are many examples, but that of Vinicius Jr. is unparalleled. The kid was called the next Neymar, then the biggest flop in Brazil, then a player with a Ballon d'Or level of potential, and then a €45 million flop. And all of this in the span of like 2 years. Vinny has gone through a lot of changes in form and lifestyle in the first few years of his career, but it's safe to say that in the end, he's almost certainly going to have to win the Ballon d'Or. The big question, however, is how did he overcome his confidence issues to become the best player on the planet? Let's find out together. Picture this. Vinny indeed had a period in his career where he was called the next Neymar. And who could be surprised? Because Vinny also had that flair, that magical dribble, that joga bonito. The young Flamengo boy was simply destined to conquer the world. The difference between the two, however, is that Neymar had the confidence to go out in a crucial match for his Santos side, dribble past the entire opposition defense, score a solo goal that would go on to win him the FIFA Puskás award, and a few months later take that same electric form to the best club in the world at the time, Barcelona. Also, to use that same confidence to step out of his comfort zone, say, I want to escape the shadow of my idol and win every single individual trophy, and then to move to a club that would make him the most expensive footballer of all time. Vinicius Jr., on the other hand, was struggling with his confidence even before he joined Real Madrid, let alone when the biggest club in history paid €50 million for him, and he had to come to terms with that massive thought. Fast forward 5 years, however, when Vinicius is much closer to Neymar's most coveted prize, the Ballon d'Or. No, we don't want to get too far into his comparisons with Ney, but it is a fact that the Real Madrid winger has already scored as many goals in a Champions League final as Messi, and is indeed the best player in the world at the moment, with a very real chance of winning the Ballon d'Or this year. But before we get to the 3 stellar seasons that catapulted him to the top, let's talk a little about his early career, when he was on the verge of becoming a futsal player instead of a footballer. Vinicius was born on the 12th of July 2000 in the Rio de Janeiro province of São Gonçalo. His family was very poor, but even while playing with his friends in the favelas of his neighborhood, it was clear that Vinny had great potential. That's why he took up sports at the age of 6, when his father took him to Flamengo. Interestingly, the local youth coaches were aware of Vinicius' qualities, and their first impression was that he would make a great left back. That's why they described him as a player in that position in his football document. However, Vinicius didn't want to hear any of that. He wanted to show the beauty of the game, constantly going one-on-one with his opponents, like a typical representative of the joga bonito culture. Yes, this part of his story is very reminiscent of Roberto Carlos, with the slight difference that Carlos was touted as a great winger at a young age, before putting an end to his coach's ambitions to develop him in that position, as his only dream was to play as a left back. Well, Vinny knew exactly where he wanted to play, but do you know the amazing plan he came up with to persuade Flamengo's coaches to let him play as a winger? Well, between 2007 and 2010, Vinicius took futsal lessons at Flamengo's school in São Gonçalo, with the aim of improving his technique and dribbling to the point where he would practically be unbeatable one-on-one. And yes, his plan worked perfectly. In the summer of 2010, he stopped attending futsal classes, and in August of that year passed his football tests, joined Flamengo's academy, and began his journey to the top. Year after year, he emerged as one of Flamengo's top talents, even running ahead of his time and appearing in the lineup with boys bigger than him. And while his electrifying dribbling was always his driving force, winning him many new fans thanks to his incredible plays, he also had 2 major problems, which were in some ways linked. Yes, his technique and flair were inspiring and motivating, but to really see the results of a job well done, you have to score goals. It's not enough to entertain the crowd, you have to think more for the team, because at the end of the day, your coach trusts you not to show off on the touchline, but to assist and score goals to help your team move up the ranks. And in this regard, Vinicius was not influential at club level, not at all. To underline Vinicius' low effectiveness for Flamengo, he made 69 appearances at professional level, scoring just 14 goals. Of course, his performances for Brazil's under-15s and under-17 sides at the South American Championships in 2015 and 2017 respectively were a huge testament to his incredible talent, as Brazil won both competitions, with Vinicius named player of the tournament in both and top scorer at the tournament in 2017. And this incredible performance did not go unnoticed, as it led to two other important moments in Vinicius' career. Firstly, Flamengo decided to promote him to the first team and increase his release clause from 30 to 45 million euros in anticipation of a flurry of interest from Europe's top clubs. And in the end, the Flamengo Chiefs got more than they expected after the likes of Barcelona and Real Madrid appeared on the horizon for Vinicius. Indeed, the situation was very similar to that of Arda Güler in 2023, with Barca the first to ask for Vinicius, knowing that he was a big fan of the club and that one of his idols was Messi. However, Real Madrid just knew they wouldn't make the same mistake again, allowing the Catalans to snatch away Brazil's greatest talent once again. So unlike Barca, who negotiated around a fee, Real Madrid splashed out 45 million euros to pay Vini's release clause, making him the most expensive Brazilian Serie A player in history after Neymar. And it was from that point on that the mental problems began for the super talent, who wasn't just missing horrendously. His difficulties in front of goal were far more than just a technique issue or anything like that. At one point, it looked as if he had forgotten how to kick a ball properly, even if he was one-on-one with the goalkeeper. So in the 3,331 minutes he played between May 2017 and July 2018, Vini scored just 14 goals, or an average of 237 minutes per goal, which meant he needed about 2.5 games to score a single goal. These were absolutely disheartening figures for someone who was playing in an attacking role and getting consistent minutes. However, there was no going back for Real Madrid. They had already paid his clause, so in July 2018, when Vinicius turned 18, he was officially transferred to the Santiago Bernabeu. Oh, and speaking of the mythical Los Blancos Stadium, we all remember Vini's desperate first touches at his presentation as a Real Madrid player. Yes, his crisis of confidence had affected his mentality to such an extent that he was already struggling to perform the tricks he used to impress all his friends with in the favelas and São Gonçalo. And yes, there followed 3 painful years for Vini that would prove to be crucial to his future success at Real Madrid. They were the ultimate test of his patience and diligence, and, well, he passed with an A+. There were a lot of misses, mistakes, and poor passes in crucial situations in the box. The most memorable matches and periods were against Inter, Borussia Mönchengladbach, and the worst week in Real Madrid's history, when Los Blancos lost twice to Barcelona and were knocked out of the Champions League after a humiliating 4-1 defeat at the Bernabeu, all in the space of 6 days. It was against Borussia Mönchengladbach, however, that Benzema uttered the words that seemed to wake Vinicius up and tell him that he had to change everything about his game, or his time at Madrid would be over. At half-time in the Champions League game, Benzema turned to his compatriot Ferland Mendy and told him not to pass to Vinicius. He does what he wants, don't play with him, brother. He plays against us. In the summer of 2021, however, everything changed. The appointment of Carlo Ancelotti completely transformed Vinicius, who was always credited the Italian specialist with playing the biggest role in his development as a top-class footballer. "He's like a father to me," he said after one of his first truly brilliant games for Real Madrid, a 4-1 win over Alaves at the start of the 2021-22 season, in which Vini scored twice. Vinicius is very good in one-to-one situations. To score, he needs 1 touch, or maybe 2 maximum. He has to be in the area, said Carletto after the game. And yes, on the other hand, this is a huge testament to the massive role of coaching in modern football. What Lopetegui, Solari and Zidane couldn't achieve in 3 years, Ancelotti has done in 3 sentences. Vini was already a different player, forming a dream partnership with Benzema and Rodrigo, then with Bellingham and Rodrigo. Since that inspiring moment for the Brazilian talent with Ancelotti, Vini has scored a staggering 121 goals in all competitions, winning almost every trophy twice: La Liga, the Champions League, the Spanish Super Cup, and most likely the European Super Cup and the Club World Cup. Now that Real Madrid have added the Decimoquinta to their trophy cabinet, with Vini scoring one of the goals in the 2-0 win over Borussia Dortmund at Wembley. In October, however, Vini is likely to add another prestigious award to his trophy cabinet, the Ballon d'Or. He is currently the odds-on favourite to win the award, and with Brazil likely to win the Copa America, Vinicius' chances will only increase. One thing's for sure though, Vinny really did manage to get through the tough times like no one else, giving everyone the confidence that no matter what you are going through, there is always your Carlo Ancelotti out there to guide you in the right direction. And with that being said, this was the inspiring story of the next best player in the world, Vinicius Jr. Controversial and vibrant, he is one of those footballers who will always be remembered, no matter what happens at the end of his career. If you liked it, don't hesitate to like and subscribe, and let us know what you think in the comment section below. You can also check out more stories like this one right now on your screen. Thanks for watching, and see you on the pitch.